Someone was murdered 430,000 years ago, before language, and the group had to decide what to do next, and what they decided would shape every law ever written. What ancient humans did when someone committed murder is not as different from what we do today as you probably think, because the machinery is still inside you. In 2015, researchers analyzing bones from Atapuerca, Spain, made a disturbing discovery. A 430,000-year-old skull showed two overlapping fractures, same weapon, same angle. This wasn't a fight. Someone struck a killing blow, then struck again to make sure. Premeditated killing predates Homo sapiens entirely. It predates modern cognition as we define it. The part of the brain we associate with planning, it was already being used to kill. Here is a number that should disturb you. Roughly 25% of all prehistoric male deaths were homicides. This wasn't rare. Ancient communities weren't responding to shocking exceptions. They were managing an almost routine social emergency over and over. Every few seasons, someone was dead and someone in the group did it. The question wasn't whether this would happen. The question was who decides and how. In nearly every studied prehistoric and early tribal society, the answer was the same. The victim's family decided, not a chief, not a council. The family. They held the right to execute, exile, or accept compensation. But here's the twist. Accepting gifts instead of blood revenge was considered shameful. Taking payment meant you valued your relative's life in animal skins. Anthropologist Christopher Boehm documented this across dozens of pre-state societies. His research showed that status, revenge, and honor were inseparable in ancient justice. This blood price system, revenge or payment, is the direct ancestor of modern law. Every lawsuit, every settlement, every criminal code traces back to that binary choice. But payment and revenge weren't the only options. There was a third: ostracism, cast out, alone in the wild. In a prehistoric environment, expulsion was a death sentence, just a slower one. No shelter network, no hunting partners, no one to watch your back at night. Researcher Jaak Panksepp identified the panic system in mammals as a response to social separation. The pain of being cast out is neurologically identical to physical injury. Ancient humans didn't just fear death, they feared this: dying outside the circle. And communities knew it. Expulsion was the most brutal sentence available without touching someone. Now here is where the science becomes genuinely unsettling. Execution wasn't just punishment, it was genetic editing. Christopher Boehm's research suggests prehistoric bands consistently executed repeat violent offenders. Generation after generation, the most impulsively violent individuals were removed before reproducing. Human skulls became more graceful, less aggressive in bone structure over exactly this period. Boehm called this self-domestication. Humans domesticated themselves the same way they domesticated dogs. Not through kindness, through collective killing of those who couldn't cooperate. The brain you use to read, work, and love was partially shaped by ancient murder trials. Researcher Richard Wrangham calls this the execution hypothesis. His book, The Goodness Paradox, argues that human gentleness is built on a foundation of organized killing. We are gentle because our ancestors were ruthless about removing those who weren't. The death penalty may be older than written language, older than agriculture, older than the wheel. Evidence from tribal records and skeletal data suggests coordinated execution existed before symbolic communication. Communities coordinated murder before they could fully talk about it. The plan existed in gesture, glance, and shared understanding before it existed in words. When you sit on a jury or vote for a law, something ancient is running in your brain. Neuroscientists have identified what they call coalitionary enforcement instincts, the automatic urge to join group punishment of norm violators. Studies show the brain's reward centers activate when you participate in punishing cheaters, even at personal cost. Ernst Fair's ultimatum game research showed people will sacrifice their own resources just to punish unfairness. That instinct, punish the violator even if it costs you, is ancient. It is prehistoric group justice in modern clothing. And here is what makes this all land differently when you sit with it. Those ancient humans without courts, lawyers, or language had a justice system that worked. Not perfectly, not fairly by our standards, but it worked well enough to build civilization. Every institution you trust, courts, police, prisons, is scaffolding built on top of that original system. Remove the scaffolding and the instinct underneath doesn't disappear. It was never gone. The 430,000-year-old skull from Atapuerca didn't just show us the first murder. It showed us the first murder investigation. Because someone put that body in a deep shaft, the only body deliberately placed there, which means the group noticed. They responded. They made a decision about what this death meant. That is justice, in its earliest detectable form. The bones sat there for 430,000 years, waiting for us to find them and ask the right question. Not just who was killed, but what the people who remained decided to do about it. Murder is as old as our species, but so is the response to it. The outrage you feel at injustice, the need to see wrongdoers punished, the satisfaction when the group agrees. That is not a modern value. That is a 430,000-year-old survival mechanism, and it is running right now. We didn't invent justice, we inherited it. And before that, we were shaped by it, one execution at a time. The oldest murder weapon ever found was used twice. Someone made sure, someone planned, someone decided another person had to go, and then the rest of the group had to decide what came next. They always did. But there's something we haven't said yet, something that reframes everything above it. The execution of a murderer in a prehistoric band was almost never a solo decision. It required consensus. Multiple individuals agreeing, often silently, that this person had to go. That coordination, before language, required something extraordinary happening inside each person simultaneously. Theory of mind, the ability to model what others are thinking and align with it invisibly. Cognitive scientists believe this capacity, reading group intent without speaking, co-evolved with collective punishment itself. We didn't develop social intelligence and then use it for justice. Justice is part of why we developed it. Every time you read a room, sense consensus forming, or feel the group turning on someone, that is the same neural process that once decided whether a repeat killer lived or died. Now consider what consistent execution of violent males did across 500 generations. Not one generation, not 10. Hundreds of generations of removing the most dangerous individuals before they could pass traits forward. Chimpanzees, our closest relatives, have coalition violence but no consistent execution of repeat aggressors within the group. The result is measurable. Human within-group lethal aggression is significantly lower than any comparable primate. What looks like human kindness and what looks like human cruelty share the same evolutionary root. The gentleness is real, but it was purchased at a price that should make you uncomfortable. And that discomfort is itself ancient. Moral unease about group punishment is documented across every studied culture. Even the people who carried it out didn't always feel clean afterward. The records show ritual purification after killings. Across early societies, executioners performed ceremonies to separate themselves from the act they had just committed together. We still do this. Lethal injection protocols, multiple switch systems, anonymous juries. Diffusion of responsibility is ancient guilt management. The machinery of collective punishment was always designed to distribute the weight so no single person broke under it, which means the guilt was always part of the system too. Justice and moral injury were never separate. The 430,000-year-old bones in Atapuerca showed us the beginning of murder, but they also showed us something the killer never intended to leave behind. Evidence. Someone preserved that body. Someone cared enough about what happened to mark it with deliberate placement. The first murder left a record because the community decided that death meant something. That decision, this death matters, this must be answered, is the founding statement of every legal system ever built. Not a law, not a court, not a word, just a group of ancient humans refusing to let a killing disappear. That refusal is still in you. It has never left.